And we are back. It's Everything Amateur, episode number 2. I'm Daniel Blair. That's Greg Albertson. And Greg, we did good enough for a second episode, so that's a good start.
Yeah, I got a lot of texts, and it was more than just my mom and dad, so that was nice.
Yeah, same here. I actually got compliments from other riders, other riders' dads, promoters, sponsors. They all said, dude, love what you're doing. And we got some great participation. A bunch of the riders that we talked about were posting and sharing. And, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere now. So it was pretty cool, dude, listening back and just kind of like reminiscing. Because honestly, it was just you and I going for it and just kind of just saying, what do we got here? Like, let's talk Spring Nationals, and everybody liked it. And that's going to bring some consistency with the show. Obviously, if we're going to do 2, we'll do 3 and 4, 5, 6. But this one will be fun. We're going to talk about the Cal Classic that did just happen. We're going to talk about the absolute just mudfest that was Foxborough. Oh, my gosh. And then we'll close it out by talking World Minis. Race that you and I are both going to. We both have memories from the past, and the Verb guys are bringing it back hardcore at Mesquite, a track that I can't wait to go to. But how you doing, Greg? You ready to talk some more amateurs here on episode number 2?
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm ready to give these amateurs kind of what they deserve, and honestly, a big eye opener for me. You go to the pros, and you're in that area like we were with my brother from '06 to 2017, and then to step back in and you forget. But man, these guys are, these amateurs are they're a big draw. That they're the big fish in the small pond per se, but at the same time, these kids are selling gear and they're selling bikes, and it got brought up on Steve's podcast about, hey, what, he was talking about jet rentals. Well, they're not. Are they really selling gear? Are they really? Absolutely. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
know who got an 8th, 9th, 10th at Supercross, but these guys that are in it every weekend, they know, the famous guys, man. Jaden Smart is a superstar. You know what I mean? Beckham Smith is a superstar. Talon Rogers, Jet Rao, all these kids are superstars, whether it be even in the women's class with Lachlan Turner and Hannah Jameson and all these guys. Like, there's a lot of people that this is who they get to see every day. So, like, we definitely, it was a big eye opener to me to come back and see how big of a business amateur racing is.
Yeah, it totally is. And you think about the fence lines at the big amateur nationals too, and everybody watches because they want to see that next generation, because there is the history. I've been doing these shows now. I've done 2 episodes with Wes Williams and Kevin Kelly. We had Matt Burkeen on this week watching World Mini footage from the past, and you're watching Dungy, and you're watching Cooper Webb and Cincerello, and you're hearing all these names, and those names did carry on into the pros. And back then, when they were amateurs, they were the draw and the stars at the amateur races, and now we have that too. And I think you and I probably get a little, like, we don't think about it that close because we're so close to it, and we're inner working in the pits and with all these riders. But to a lot of the younger amateur riders that are just coming up, making their way into Loretta's for the first time, or maybe breaking into their first top 10 at the Cal Classic or at Minios, like, they really do look at the top of the class as those are the guys that are on the trajectory to be top riders someday in the sport. And you're seeing that now. I mean, look at Cade Johnson. We'll get into him. He wins Foxborough, but dude, he was on Race Day Live for years. Dunlop Elite kid. I was interviewing him since '65, so I've known of him since he was just a little dude. Now he's twice my size. He's probably closer to your size. And but now he is in the stadiums winning SMX Next Supercross. And not that long ago, he was one of those kids at the amateur races that you and I maybe would have took for granted because we were around him all the time. But no, I think that's why this show is going to be successful, because we are bringing to light the kids that are doing well at the races and highlighting them as they are on their way to being in the stadiums, man. It happens so freaking fast too, dude.
Oh,
They're
unreal.
there in a minute, man. But anyways, there was some footage of you this past one. You were on there, you and Jimmy, and racing the A class. I think 702. Was that the Jimmy number on the?
Yeah, so that's we went back to World Mini that year. Kid named Jared Brown got hurt. Jimmy was trying to do the break into the pros, and it's crazy because when you go from amateurs, Jimmy's last year in amateurs, 6 motorcycles from Yamaha parts, made a ton of money, big time bonuses from Yamaha, and then to get second at Loretta's, and then in the A class to get second at Loretta's, and then nothing. And it was like couldn't even get one free motorcycle to go pro because there is that big disconnect. So yeah, that year we got a little Suzuki support from Cole Grass, did some arena crosses, and they called and said Jared Brown got hurt. Let's go to you want to go to Vegas, and there was budget, travel budget. The $3,000 check showed to send us to Vegas, and we went, and that's amateur money, and we went,
Yeah.
and he actually won. He was struggling to make main events in Supercross that year, and he come to and he took one Kennard, Stroop, and Izzy.
Kennard, that there was
Yeah, yeah,
clips
yeah.
of him battling with Trey, which is so funny,
Yeah.
knowing
So we
knowing their
weren't supposed to we
history.
weren't
But
supposed to be there, but that's just the big disconnect. So there's no guaranteed path unless you have to go perform and you have to go win. Everybody wants to think, oh man, I got second at Loretta's, or I got third. You have to win to go to that next level. You have to win, and that was a big lesson. And but that little bit of amateur money kept us going for the outdoors and got us some more. We ended up getting Suzuki amateur support, and then we went pro racing with it.
Trey Kennard, Austin Stroop, Nico Izzy was in there, Dungy, and then they all graduate up to the pros. Then you had Cincerello on that KX65, just with the sickest style, dude. He was so rad as a little dude. And then just some of the names that were in there. It's crazy to see. But then again, we have the names now. And the World Mini is coming up. You and I are both going to go to that. We'll cover that at the end of the show, give our thoughts on the World Mini and its re-emergence. Seems like it's on its own trajectory to be back as a big amateur national with the track. I think the track's going to be the big key, right? Mesquite, from what I understand, is awesome. The RMX guys, they do a fantastic job in that whole area. We talked about it last week, or on the last show, sorry, with Townsend and Hymus and some of the kids, Sawyer Geek, that are coming out of that area. It's because of the tracks and because of the difficulty, and that's Mesquite. And they're going to be running the World Minis with, of course, Verb. The Verb guys do an amazing job. They're so all in on marketing and pushing these kids too, and bringing things back. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. I do want to start, though, with the Cal Classic. That one just happened, and I figured, Greg, what we would do is kind of start with the riders that won the most titles, because there is a lot. You mentioned that some of the races, amateur nationals, it's a lot of classes, and it's every single class that you can put on a schedule, and this one had them all. We'll start with Max Shane. You have got Max Shane right now on the racer race schedule, right? He is just racing and not doing the futures this year, but instead racing all the amateur nationals. He went and won 4 Cal Classic titles in his return to SoCal. I'm sure he feels good getting back home to the SoCal area, but 4 titles, dude. That's 4 plates, man. That's a lot of racing and a lot of winning.
Yep, yep. So that was the plan, and you got to give yourself a little credit. We put that plan together, and we talked to Max, and he'd had some rides, and he'd done really good and showed some speed. But the conversation we had with Max was, what have you won? What have you really won? We haven't done it. Yeah, he showed speed, and he had won Ponca some titles and stuff like that. And this was a good opportunity to just ride as much as you can, get as much track time as you can, and you learn more that way. So to ride the stock platform of the Husqvarna Austrian bike with the factory edition bike, and it's competitive in the mod classes, and just to go see that. So yeah, that's the plan. And like you said, so many classes, like there's 5 B classes, and that's usually what you can ride, 5. At this specific race there was 7 B classes. So I again, I don't know what the promoters are thinking a lot of times, like what's the point of running 7 different B classes, because there was an open, looks like there was an open B
I
class,
saw an
and
open
then,
BC.
or maybe they're not set, so it'd be 6, then there was an open, yeah. So I don't know, I guess I don't understand, but I haven't spent a ton of time in California. Maybe that's normal, but it seems like overkill to me.
So you mentioned Max. The plan was to win and learn how to win, because we both have a relationship with him, and he's been fast for a long time, but he hasn't gobbled up the checkered flags and learned what that feeling is to close. I thought we could do a little bit something a little bit different on this episode, not just cover the race, but kind of just share our beliefs on things. And my belief, I want to hear if yours is the same. Maybe they're different. It'd be great if it is. We'll go through a bunch of different ideas here. But I think that on the big bikes, once you're in that B into A period, it is time to win, because you got to win from that period on. You said you got to win to get the next level of support. Winning, gobbling up checkered flags is what you have to do. But I also believe that on the mini bike side, it's not as important. Like, we'll get to Steinbrecher and Smart and Brennan. They didn't win everything, and losing, I think, is actually good for them, because it's teaching them a lot more than just being winners. I feel like there's more lessons in it. But do you agree that there's a line, and where is the line when it's time to win every single thing that you can? But before that line, losing, I don't think is as bad of a thing. I think there's actually more lessons in it. Your thoughts?
100%, and it just depends on your situation. Obviously, if you're in a situation where financially, maybe, you don't need, everybody feels like they need the support, right? But like some people literally getting the support is the difference between having one or two, one motorcycle for the year or not, where there's other people that are going to be able to go get that. And you have to put yourself in a position to win because nobody's looking at third, fourth, fifth, sixth position. And certain riders, if they're in a long term deal, you can take a little bit more chances and use some developmental years because if you're tied into a 2 or 3 year contract, you've got a little freedom to be able to go, you know, do the learning and maybe ride up a class or do whatever. But if you don't, you have not everybody. So that's my thoughts on it. And I like also riding on the mini bike side, riding two different motorcycles. I know it's been a trend lately to just ride. Oh, well, we're done with the 65, we're riding the 85, but you can still ride both and you still fit both. So understand it is harder, and it's if you ride two different motorcycles, whether it's a 65 and an 85 at the same time or a 50 and a 65, it's gonna lessen your chances on the bikes on whatever
It
bike it
will, a
is to
little bit.
win.
They'll pull from each other, right?
Yes,
A
you're
little
going
bit.
back and forth, but the adaptability that you're learning there from bike to bike is also going to be, beneficial from adapting track to track, when you're just riding one motorcycle. So I think that adaptability of riding different, and I think a lot of people are going into the amateur ranks now, treating it like the pro races. Oh, well, I'm only riding
Yep.
mod class, or I'm only riding stock classes, or I'm only riding the 65, or I'm only riding the 85, or I'm only riding Superman. Ride as much as you can. This is your time to develop, and I think this is where we're kind of going the wrong way because we're so focused on next weekend and not necessarily next year.
Makes a lot of sense, and I think you're right too. Everyone's in different scenarios. Some of these kids, the majority of them get put on multi-year deals when you sign an amateur. Rarely is it a one-year deal unless it's very circumstantial. And I've always believed the same thing when I was at Orange Brigade is that if you have a 2-year deal, year one, I want you trying a lot of different things and not being in a situation to dominate because it's almost like an experimental year. And try this, lose here, go to this track, like almost just open up your board and your toolbox a little bit. And then on the year when it's time to crush it, then it's the time to crush it. But again, is there a line for you though when it gets to the point where you got to do what it takes to win only because of the mindset side? Like that was the deal with Max Shane. So much speed all the time, but it was learning how to actually win and close it down and feel that checkered flag and go, okay, I know how I did that now. And he's starting to get multiples and he's going everywhere to get them. Do you feel like that's a 250 thing or is that 125? Is that a Supermini thing? As we'll get into Pappas and Seba. They were splitting everything again too. So where is the line for you when you really on the mindset side, less on the support, but mindset, you got to just start winning to learn how to win and learn how to close.
Yeah, towards the later stages, right? Because when you make that jump to pro, that's a huge jump. Not to the A class, but to the actual pro class. So, yeah, you got to start
Where you
stacking
lose a lot.
wins.
You lose in the
Yeah,
pros.
yeah.
A
You're gonna
lot.
you're gonna lose, and that's why I think you see those people that have seen that, that have maybe not been super successful early on at the amateur nationals at Loretta Lynn's. It's not that these kids came out of nowhere. It's not Levi Kitchen and Justin Cooper and these guys. They didn't come out of nowhere. They were there the whole
They were
time.
around. They were around, yeah.
Right, they were doing it. It's just, it's important to learn to lose at the beginning because when you go to pros and you get a 15th at your first pro national, if you're Levi Kitchen or Justin Cooper or one of those kids that have been down there and or Max Shane at this point and finished that bad, you understand, okay, I was there and now I got to the top of this. But if you're a Jet Reynolds, for example, super hard to win everything, show up at your first pro national and get 18th. It's the end of the world. Like
Yeah,
how
you don't
how
even
you
you don't
can't
even know.
fathom. You can't
Yeah.
fathom how can I go from getting 18th? It seems like such a big leap, and it's just that whole we talk about keeping our head down. Keeping your head down. Through that stuff is just it's not picking your head up because when you pick your head up, you see how far you have to go and you get defeated. So those guys, those kids, they know how about keeping their head down. Hey, we've been here before, and we're going to keep climbing. But yes, to prove your point, you have to be able to win. Okay, when you win when you're supposed to win, because there's two things. Like there's two different types of pressures. I think if you can be in that position where you're the underdog and you're not quite the fastest, you have to push a little harder to get there. But equally as hard is if you lose, it's a failure, right? If you're supposed to be that kind of
The
pressure that you
favorite.
put on
And you're the
yourself, like
favorite.
Max Shane losing any of those races there is a failure. A second place is a failure. So to feel that pressure of if I don't do this, that's a failure. So just like in a in an LCQ or a heat race, you don't win an LCQ and you're supposed to be in the, you failed, right? So you're going to
Yep.
feel these types of things. So you have to put yourself in positions, and that's why I like 65 and 85, like for example, or 50 and 65, like for example, Beckham Smith. We're talking about riding a 65 and an 85 at Loretta's. Put you in one position. I don't know if it will go that route, but if he does do that, then he's in one spot where anything less than a win is a failure. Not, essentially, because he's beat all those kids,
You're the
and then in a
favorite. Yep.
spot where you're really going to have to race up. So it's not so you get to feel both those things, and that's my thoughts. Anytime you can put yourself, and that's why I think it's important to go local racing still too, because hey, say, oh well, we ain't got any competition. Well, hey, you never know where you're going to show up, and wherever what's the fairgrounds you went and raced all the time, right?
Los
It's like
Banos, bro.
Las
Hey,
Banos. You don't
I
know if you're
let.
going to show up, who's going to be at Los Banos, right? So it helps you because then your ego's in there, and your ego is usually not your buddy, but sometimes it's good to put that pressure on yourself and say, hey, I can't lose, and learn to deal with that too, because that's equally as hard to deal with sometimes as being the third or fourth place guy trying to win.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on down to the riders who won 3 championships. Maddox Timmerman is one of them. Great Spring Nationals. Word on the street from the people I know out in the West Coast. Maddox is on rails, and when you're in those classes too, the mini senior, super mini classes on the West Coast are always stacked. It's always the same kid. I mean, there's like 5, 6, 7 of the same kids. They're all winners. They've all won Loretta Motos, and they all race locally together. They race everything together. And right now, Maddox Timmerman is on fire. He gets 3, Greg. So thoughts on Maddox on the mini senior big wheel 85, just giving these boys some.
Yeah, he looked good, and he looked good this spring at the Texas races. What now? Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was part of the Orange Brigade slash Husqvarna program, and he's not anymore. Correct?
He's not anymore. He
That
was
might be
part
a,
of
that
the,
might be a
yep,
theme, a little bit of chip on your shoulder. We're going to get into another kid, Aiden Steinbrecher later, but hey,
yep,
that's something that can be really good for you. You kind of you go on easy street and you got the ride and you the man, and then something gets taken away from you, and it's time to go. Okay, who am I going to be? Am I going to fight to get it back, or am I going to lay down? And it looks like he's saying, okay, you guys made a mistake, right? And
Greg.
that's the
Greg.
that's the dark side, right? That's
Yes,
what
but I have to
motivates
tell
us.
you, I love hearing you say this because I'll tell you a story. I don't think the Timmermans will care if I share this, but part of the cuts were, it was obviously financial based. We all know what was happening at that time, and it was a very weird and tight squeeze that had to happen. I did have a big roster at the time, and the Timmerman family, Simon said, this is a bummer. We hate this, but he said this isn't bad for Maddox himself. It's not bad for him because it will light a fire under him. Anderson Waddell is another one on the East Coast who is just ripping right now on a 65. He's winning everything. He's on an absolute tear. And it was the same thing. He was just part of the squeeze. And for some of these kids, yeah, maybe it's a little early, you would think, because they're younger, but they know, like they feel it. And Maddox is proving that right now. I mean, he's on absolute fire right now. And I think for him, he always had a hard time being a winner too. He always had highs and lows. There was a lot of speed, but now it's title after title after title after title. And Simon told me this will be good for him, the kid individually. And bro, it has been. It has
Yeah.
been.
And that's not talked about, especially what we do in the coaching. And it's always like, oh yeah, so yeah, you want to be the best and stay motivated to win, and motivated to go out there and do your best. Like that's not what motivates people. Like what motivates people, what makes you get out of bed at 6 in the morning and go running or jump in a cold plunge is a lot of times it's because there's somebody you don't like, and you're saying F that guy or F these people, and I'm going to show them, right? So
Yeah.
that's and maybe we're seeing that, like you said, they're a little young, but I think they feel that, right? You're going, okay, hey, watch me now, right? And that's
Yeah.
that's just a great life lesson. It doesn't matter whether it's your boss you're doing that with, or you're the guy down the street, or somebody you were competitive with in high school, or somebody that stole your girlfriend. Like it doesn't matter. There's somebody every day we all wake up and we have a little bit of a dark motive. We all have motivation, but there's behind
Yep.
everybody successful, there's a dark motivation.
Like Cooper Webb has one, obviously, of all people. Okay, we'll switch to the pros for 5 seconds, but talk about the chip. Also winning 3 titles, a kid who's probably in the same situation as Talon Hinson. He was part of that same thing. Again, I had a massively big team the last year, and it went from massive to small, and it was like, oh man. And he took the Yamaha ride, which was obviously a little bit risky because of the bike. he is proving that that's not really an issue. And I've seen videos, and Little Talon always looks great. He's such a good, fundamental, perfect little rider. But from what I understand, the same thing with him. The speed is there, and he's riding the wheels off that Yamaha, which I think long term probably ends up helping him in the long term. So, your thoughts? You know them very well too, but he's another three-peater at the Cal
Yeah,
Classic.
and Casey's been in the sport for a long time, as long as me or you, and he was successful, so he's got a lot to give. And him being in that network of people, I know Villapoto's been helping him out,
Yep.
talent out with some stuff and the Yamaha thing, and it just makes sense. And it's funny, like with Villapoto and that relationship, and that it's always like when a door closes, you think it can be the end of the world, but look at it, opened up a new opportunity. It probably allowed them to get closer to the Villapoto with what they're doing with Yamaha. Maybe I think they're on a 2-year deal over there, so that's cool. And then it came at the right time too, because the bike's been the bike, and everybody talks about the bike, but I mean the KTM. I'll tell you right now, I've seen it, and the KTM 65 took a step backwards in 24 when it went to the new bike. It's the motor's not as good. Anybody will say so. I mean, engine wise, that bike's on. The Cobras are really good right now, but that bike is that Yamaha is very on par in the motor department. I've seen it. It's quick. I've got some kids training and riding on here, Talon and Tape Brush, and that
Yep.
bike is highly competitive. So I don't know how much long. I think that the Cobra's just a little bit better than those two bikes right now for sure in the motor department, but I don't think we can look at the Yamaha and go, oh, they're doing that. Like he's riding that Yamaha well, but that Yamaha, I'm done saying, oh well, it's a Yamaha. That Yamaha is highly competitive, and it's on the same page as the KTM for sure. And I think both bikes are they're giving up a little bit to the Cobra 65 for sure.
You know what I think too helps is Little Talon is not too big yet. He's still size wise to where he could ride that thing right, and it seems like riders that are more technical. He's very fundamental and technical and jumpy, like Jaden Smart. I feel like those types of kids too can get away with that Yamaha better. It invites that type of riding where I don't. If he was just kind of a grunt smashing off things, maybe that bike doesn't keep up with what he wants to do. But the way little Talon Hinson rides, I think it works. Like Jaden Smart, it's the same kind of thing. The Yamaha fits that type of kid.
Yeah, 100%. And just he's just a high IQ, high skill level rider.
Yes,
And he
yes.
doesn't have to jam the bike like you said, but you do have to keep the speed up on those things. I think they don't have the torque as the other bikes, but for somebody that's his skill level, I don't think that's as big of a deal. If you can keep it on top, you can keep from killing your speed, which he seems to do. He rides those cracks really good. I saw him ride at Mesquite for the qualifier out there. He was on rails. So obviously the California kids, you say they ride those tracks really good, but at the same time, Mesquite's got that East Coast feel a little bit, and he rode
Yeah.
really good there.
Yeah, I think it'll carry. Jet Rao, you got him on the Max Shane program too. Is he just on the
It's
road chasing? I mean, they're everywhere, but he won 3 titles too. And he got
Yeah,
an 85 one, which was a weird one though. There was only a couple kids in that one, so I don't really know the details. But the 65 stuff, obviously, he's an absolute shredder, and he got 3, Greg.
yeah, he did. He did. He got three. Got the two 65 7 and nines, and got a third in the Open. Yamina Burning
Yeah.
jumped up as a 9-year old, and she just, I mean, she
She got a
amazes me
bunch of
all the time.
seconds. She got a bunch of
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah, but she got the second in the Open behind Talon, and it's cool to see. You can't even say she's fast for a girl anymore. That's just straight up fast. I mean, she's
She's
there.
one of the best in
Jet,
the age class. She's one of the
yeah,
best.
but Jet, I learned a lot with Jet, and the family's just very a laid back mentality. Mom and Dad were racing together in the plus 50 class out there. They were second and third in the plus 50, so they were all three racing. They were battling out. I think they were all. I think they might have gated one of the motos. I don't know if it was plus 50, but they might have all three been on the track at the same time racing. So it's a real laid back mentality. It's really cool to see, enjoying that amateur racing. And Jet last year, he was top three in the 65 7 and 9 class last year at some of these races, and he was still riding the 50 e-bike. And I said, what are you doing? They said, well, he likes riding the bike, and then he's messing around on it, and then lo and behold, it's a 3-lap race, and it's 3 laps or 3 motos before a highly competitive 65 7 and 9 race, and he goes out and wins it or gets second. I'm like, oh well, there's definitely some benefits to riding this e-bike.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the kids that age, you talked about being adaptable. It's just ride and race. Just drop the gate and just go and whatever it is, it is. And again, he's riding an 85 too. What is he on 85? Which one?
He is on Cash Kane's used Money Inc. bike that they rode, and I'd never seen him ride it.
What brand is it?
It's a KTM, like a
It's a KTM.
2023. Yeah,
Okay,
2023. They
I was
bought
just
it.
thinking about it.
They bought it used, and I hadn't seen him ride it at all. Train on it one day, and then they're like, "Well, he raced like local races on it," and he's like, "We're gonna go try this thing at Spring Nationals," and he got some like I think thirds and fourths and fifths. So it's
Just
cool to
just
see that
just ride and
mentality.
race, buddy. Just
Yep.
ride and race. All right, some two title guys. We'll start big. Preston Kilroy. I bring him up because he's doing the Canadian Nationals, and looks like he's just getting great gate drops for that. He's going to be good up there too. I have to believe he's one of the favorites for the MX2 class up there. He got two. Cole Timbo got the other. We'll get to Timbo here in a second. Armbruster got two. Not surprised
Yep.
again.
Uh,
You're just going to hear that name every time that you hear us talk, probably because we're either previewing him or reviewing him, and he's going to be winning a lot. So he gets two, and the other one is Hunter Brent. Is it Hunter Brennan? That
Hunter,
Chase
that's
Brennan's
Chase.
older brother. So
That
he's a
is
C
that is.
class.
He's
He's a
looked
C class
really
kid.
really good.
Well, we're bringing up C class, and I'll tell you what. Cooper Bergeron was stoked at the last show. He got brought up. So was Chavez. Chavez was stoked.
Chavez
So
was
we
he was stoked.
fired up, dude, because we brought him
I
up.
said I'd come on here, and he did not make Loretta's last year. I don't know. I had
He
heard that.
corrected me too. He corrected me
Yep.
too. He
So
said he did not.
I brought that up, but he was he is he's not from Colombia or South America either. He's no
Yeah,
ties
you
to the
said
cartel.
there's no cartel affiliation. He told me that too. So we need to get our facts right. But this Brennan, this is Chase Brennan's older brother, correct? Because he's on a Suzuki. I'm just tying the two
Yes.
together. Am I right?
Yes, he is. He is.
Okay. Well, he won two titles, and it's good to bring him up because when you're looking at that C class, as we start getting closer, he was good at spring inning too. I saw his name in there a bunch too, so it tells me he's after it, and he
Yep.
gets
So
two.
I'm
So
hoping though. I'm hoping I don't want to. I got a cat's out of the bag, but I don't know if you know. Hopefully they don't have any Suzuki support from the factory because in 2002 Michael LaPaglia lost a 125 C title because he had factory support in the C class, and that is a rule. So that's one thing I was wondering. I know his little brother does. So as long as he doesn't have a contract with Suzuki, he's safe in that classes. So I don't know if I'm
oh,
bringing up an old rule, but this
oh
is everything
man,
amateur, and that is an amateur rule that you
Greg.
cannot have factory, you cannot not be factory supported in the C class. So I doubt he is. Like RM Army and like Team Green deals, they don't count. But if you were factory supported, and
So
LaPaglia's argument in '02 is he goes, because he got fourth in the Supermini class and he won the 125C class. And his argument was, well, Suzuki only gives us the Superminis. We went and bought the 125.
right. Chavez and Bergeron are currently looking into that right now as we speak, just to make sure he ain't getting no factory
No,
support
I'm positive. So the
like little brother.
RM Army's got like the Team Green dealer deal, and that doesn't count in that. It's dealers give that out. So I'm sure that's what they're on. I would assume Little Brother's full factory, but I bet he's just on one of the RM Army deals, which is just something cool that the dealerships do for Suzuki riders. A little bit of cash
Awesome.
back on the bike and stuff like that. So that's what I would assume he was on. I think he'd be tagged for that already. That rule's at the top of the C class list. It's an old one.
Okay. Holland Russell, bro,
Tommy Double.
shredding. He's our Tommy Doble from this episode. What do we got here? Do you know anything? He was
Nope.
on it. He was
He's
on
from
it.
Los Angeles, California. How cool is that?
From
Just
LA,
LA.
straight from Los
Literally LA
Angeles.
kid.
Yeah, and I went on his Instagram too, and just one of the, what's funny is I just did an interview on the Main Event Moto podcast, which is my pro racing podcast that I've had for almost 10 years now.
I'm a
And I did an
Patreon.
interview. I did it, yeah, on a patreon.com/main event motos, selfless plug. But I did an interview with Billy Laninovich. Billy was a longtime factory pro. He won a Supercross, and he didn't even race his first amateur national until he was 13. He was a Barona Oaks kid, and
No.
he went to the World Minis when he was 13 for the first time. And then at 14 is when I knew who he was. And then the next thing you know, he won the U.S. Open, won Loretta's, got a factory ride. He rode for Factory KTM, Factory Connection Honda, won the San Francisco Supercross. He was just a late bloomer that kind of came on late. So I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, is this our next Billy Laninovich? Some kid that just shows up later and he's shredding in the B class, giving Max Shane some fits. Have you talked to Max? Does Max know who this is?
Yeah, so he always says like he says, "Oh yeah, is it Holland Russell, right?"
Yeah.
He'll say, "Yeah, I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like I don't. Oh, well, he's really fast. He's fast. Like he's fast out there." I was like, "Okay." And I don't know if he was at Spring Nationals or not, but man, he showed up, and yeah, he straight up in the one just straight up laid the
Laid the
fastest
wood
lap
down at
time.
450 one
Yeah,
of them,
yeah,
or was
just
it one?
laid it on. I think it was Schoolboy too. Just laid it on Max in the first moto, and then the second moto looked to be like it was going to come, and it was going to be a knockdown drag out for that last one, and Max had a crash. But I think he showed up knowing that he wanted that one. I think so. It was going to be a showdown.
Well, that's a name. That's our new name of the of everything amateur right there. So everyone, keep an eye on this dude. He was ripping, and I love the late bloomers, man. I love when they pop up out of nowhere. They're hungry. They're usually mad, and they're like they want some. So I'm excited for him. Now we'll get into some single championships. There's a whole bunch of them. Steinbrecher got one, which was great. Jaden Smart got one, and Chase Brennan on the Suzuki. And I'm going to bring up Smart and Brennan first because I saw on Instagram an epic battle between an RM85 and a YZ85, and I was thinking, man, is this like 2000? Is this like late 90s? What's going on here? But dude, they were ripping on the bikes that don't typically win the 85 classes, but you talked about it 2 weeks ago. It's a good bike. They're actually good little bikes for these kids at this age class, and those two are riding the absolute wheels off of them. And then again, shout out to Steinbrecher because he got a title too in that small wheel 85 little area of the entry fees.
Yeah. So I have a client out here, good family, Cruz Peterson and his dad Kurt. He went out. He's got he went out and bought a RM85 because he just they got him at these dealerships so close, so cheap, and now I'm gonna introduce Cruz, and he got on this thing, goes, this thing's fast. Like it's really fast. Like you have no idea how fast this thing is. I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's like faster than a KTM. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
They're but
That's
they're
exaggerating, but
punchy
it's
though.
you could get
They're
on one,
punchy.
and it's yeah, it is. It is really good. It's punchy. It's got there's we're the first. Back in the day, our 85 80s didn't have power valves, and the Suzuki did. So it was a really good torquey
Yep.
bike. Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that those guys, and like I said last week, they are. I do think those bikes work really well with the regular size of 85 reels, which would be the 14,
Yeah.
17, which I think I really do think that KTM chassis is built around a 16, 19. So to see those bikes, up there, not surprising, especially with the little lighter kids. They are a little twitchier. I feel like they which helps them turn a little bit better. But I will say this, like it was you know, back we helped, I kind of thought kind of brought up when you come here the Wyatt Thurman deal and kind of fostered that deal a little bit, knowing we wanted to ride the Super Mini on the 85 and that Yamaha really didn't offer the Super Mini. So when we got Wyatt, we went and tested a KTM and I had him one and I'm like, oh, let's see it. Wyatt's he's gonna be so much faster on this bike. And the first day we rode it, he was faster on the Yamaha, like still by a second and a half. And everybody
Yep.
was like, this thing will get on this. And he's like, I like that Yamaha turns better. And then, he got it set up for himself and eventually, but like it wasn't like, everybody thinking, oh, when we get on this and that YZ85 was a really good motorcycle for Wyatt Thurman, and you see a lot of kids doing so. The Suzuki's a little bit more of a surprise, but not really because I don't think those bikes have changed much. We just haven't seen one out there in so long. But I'll promise you this, like we talked about earlier. I saw Nico Izzy in 2006 going around Ponca City, and I don't think the Super Minis are really any faster than what he went around that track in '06 or '07. I promise.
Yeah, they were great. It's funny now in hindsight, I can share a Wyatt Thurman story. It connects to you. So obviously Wyatt moved to Texas. He was a YZ kid, 65, YZ 85 kid, and right when I got the job at Orange Brigade, one of the first things that happened is I lost Dax Bennick to Star Yamaha, and I've been very vocal about this. Everyone knows I'm pretty bent about that loss. And part of my response to that was I had some budget opened up, and I was like, I need to get two young kid. I'm going to go and use some of this budget and go get two young kids. Beckham Smith was one of them. Thank you very much, Greg. That was a great move on my part. Thanks to you. Great guidance there. And the other one was Wyatt Thurman. Again, some of your guidance, but also a little revenge. I was mad at Yamaha, really mad at Yamaha because I lost Dax. And I was like, you know what? There is a kid out there that I know is going to do very good on the KTM 85. I know he's on a Yamaha. And I know he's got a bright future, and I'm going to steal him back because I'm going to get one in return. And it's funny how things have changed, Greg, because as of last week, now maybe everyone listening to this show doesn't know that there's been a little change in my life. I'm now the general manager of Club MX, the facility and the pro race team and kind of just the entire thing. And I can tell you right now, I'm gonna probably have to steal him back, and he's probably gonna have to go back to blue because that's my guy. I'm a Wyatt Thurman fan. I love Eric. I get along great with Eric. Eric can be an intense dad a little bit, but me and Eric have bonded like perfectly. And I'm not gonna lie. I told Eric, I said you have to do what's best for you, and he's good enough to get offers everywhere. But I said coming in hot, and you're going back to blue if I have any say here. And
Well,
I'm going to try to make that happen because I'm a Wyatt Thurman believer. So
yeah, and that's awesome. And you know, it's somewhat funny. The Yamaha guys are so awesome. I'm such a big
they
fan
all,
of the Yamaha guys.
I felt so bad because I actually like all them. It was just a star thing, but
Well,
it was still
yeah,
it was blue.
exactly. People
It was
think
just that.
people think, oh, he rides for Star. Star and Yamaha are there's such a big disconnect. Like the people over there with Donnie Luce and Mike Guerra and that whole crowd that's been over, they're just and now that with the Altus Yamaha team and Ed Torrance was over with NSA and Danny Lewis, that whole Yamaha,
And I
they're
love
just
Danny Lewis
awesome.
too.
It's such that's such everybody's like, oh, they're going to Star. I hear all these amateur. Oh yeah, well, Talon Henson or this guy or Jaden Smart, they're signed with Star. Ain't nobody signed with Star on, now there's a few like Wood and they do those, but and they always protect themselves, right? That's Yamaha and Star are not it always cracks me up when I hear a 65, 85 parent and, oh yeah, they just signed this 65 kid Star did. I'm like, I just laugh. That's not happening, guys.
No,
That's
they
not, I
didn't. No,
promise
they
you, that's
didn't.
not
But
happening.
Star typically takes just anyone I sign, and now they've
No,
been
well, they
stealing
take
from.
who wins.
No,
There's not a lot of
he's been
development
taken
there.
from Holiday. He's been taken from Holiday lately too. Holiday's been getting what I got first because they between Dax and Davies and Manier, and now Dudney went there from Cowie, and I think they're trying to grab Gordon right now too. So there's a lot of there's a lot of theft. And it's not theft. It's actually not theft. It's just they wait. They do what Geico Honda did back in the day. Geico Honda did the same thing. They waited, grab all the good ones, and then brought them up. It was just the move, and Star's doing the same thing. But anyways, I just had to tell that story because again, I that was part revenge on my part. It wasn't just pure scouting and talent and your insight. There was a revenge move there, and now here I am on the other side of it, and I'm like, what's up, Eric? How we
Yeah.
doing, man? You want to come back? And he's like, we'll see. So, anyways, let's move on down the list here. Those were some of the winners again. Jaden Smart. We don't need to go into too much detail. Just everyone, you all know who he is, and
No, and that's the
you're gonna
usual.
hear
I mean,
about
I
him
want to. I
all
want to
the
double
time.
down. I mean, Jaden's just. It's. I don't want this to get. I don't want to just glaze it. He's just good. Like
Yeah,
he's
I've
good.
been
So
watching
that
that since
it's
he
easy
was
to just.
4.
It's easy to like. People are like, why didn't you didn't really talk about Beckham much? You didn't. I mean, you didn't talk about this guy much. Like, dude,
Y'all
those
know.
guys are
Y'all
like
know.
it's known. It's like Jaden Rolls, and there's a certain amount of guys that you just know
Okay,
those are the
but
dudes.
one and Steinbrecher's one too. His name's out there. He's won a bunch. He's starting to come back around, which is great for him because he had some injuries and just some off time. He's had off timed injuries where it's like, dang it, bad timing. We do got to give Chase Brennan a little love here though.
Oh, absolutely.
Because listen, he's on an RM85, and we haven't seen that since I don't think Landon Gordon, which I bought one of Landon Gordon's old bikes, and it was trick, dude. I had the extended
Yeah.
swing arm one with some trick stuff on it, triple clamps and stuff. But that kid, I watched him weed his brains out at Springading on Supercross, and he got up. He's tough. And to see him winning titles on that thing and the way it looks on Instagram, I feel like he does need a shout out because he doesn't have the same credentials, maybe as
Yeah, yeah.
Jaden Smart or Aiden Steinbrecher does. So good job on Chase
No, and
Brennan.
he's working on him though for sure. So
He's getting there.
he's going to
He's
be the
starting
guy.
to. Yeah, it's coming around big time with him. So
And
he
then yeah,
was great.
Aiden's kind of in that position that we talked about earlier. It's just like he was that kid that won everything so early. He was just like so much so much better at a 4 to 6, right? We don't even talk about the 4 to 6 right now. And
Yep.
then the 50 class, he was so dang good. And then kind of I hate to say go through a lull, but it's kind of it's better that he regressed a little bit. I hate to use that word, but let's say results wise, he regressed a little bit because now he gets to make that climb. Now he gets to deal with that as an amateur. If he won all the way through and then he dealt with, kind of regressing at the going into pros, that would really be tough. So I think he's kind of on his climb, and I think at the same time he's getting a little older, so starting to do it for himself a little bit. And I think he's in that same
Yeah.
spot like we talked about Timmerman, where he was a product of losing the ride because of budget cuts in the KTM group, and kind of going, okay, it's gonna be my year. And we talked about kind of just changing his persona and the way he thinks about himself because he's
He's maturing now too on his own. He all of a sudden I could tell he was on a Race Day Live recently, Team Dunlop Elite, and it was like, oh dang, Aiden, all right, like he's growing up,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
he's
right in that age when that's happening. That's cool to see. Cole Timbo. So my question to you on Cold Timbo is it's a Max Shane type question is they weren't at Foxborough. So they're kind of going the other route and he did the same thing. I've seen him race in spring nationals. He's here. What do you think about just that pathway? Now he's different because he's in the A Pro classes and Max is in the B, so there's a little different right there. But what do you think about like a guy like Timbo bypassing the future stuff and just hitting the amateur national scene right now? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It just depends on what situation you are in, like financially, and where what you're
Support
trying to
maybe?
do.
I think
And I don't know.
I
That's
think
a
he's Bar
long
X.
ways away. You're talking about going all the way out to oh, where were they? Foxborough. Like that's
Boston.
Boston. Like what? Unless you can jump on a plane and you have some support. Like what? I mean, hindsight's 2020. I bet he's really rubbing his hands together. Thank God I didn't go all the way out there. But yeah, and then what is the budget? You then trying to keep two bikes around and doing Supercross and motocross, and if you can do that, I don't know. Everybody's their own little race team, and you have to come up with the best plan for your budget, just like any of these race teams, and not just that. You want to do it all, but just come up with a. For me, it's about coming up with a sustainable plan, something that you can execute, and then kind of just get rid of the noise. People, oh, you have to be here. Just you got to come up with a plan that's sustainable for you, and then get rid of all the freaking noise, and then stick to your plan. So I don't know what his plan is, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If it
Me
fits
neither.
into what he's doing,
He's
all
riding
these
really
kids can
well.
ride.
Yeah, he's riding really well too. And from what I've heard too, because I'm always keeping tabs on what it looks like too, because you see results and you wonder how and why, and then I make my calls. And apparently, Cold Timbo is on rails right now too. Supermini, the split, Reese Seba, Dane Pappas. I feel like we're going to probably say those names together a lot this year. Pappas being in his AMA 14 year, Seba in his 15, but he's a little smaller. Um, I like them both, man. I think we're gonna hear those names all year into Loretta's and Pass, and I'm curious to see what they both do after because Pappas I think is bigger, and from what I understand, he already has ridden a 250, and I've seen videos of it, and he looks like he's 250 ready today. Where Seba, I'm not sure if he's small enough. Does he go 125? Does he go the step by step plan? Does he ride the Super Mini way late, like maybe Tiger Wood did through Minios? I don't know what he does, but yeah, Greg, those are the two Super Mini. They split them.
Yeah. Seba was fast. I mean, last year Seba was fast there. I mean, I think he was running up there with Zing and Wei and maybe beating those guys every once in a while. So it's not really surprising to see him, Seba up there. He's been riding good all year. I think when you're kind of doing that jockeying all year in that super mini class, it's really scary. And at the end of the day, if you're looking for the quote unquote ride, it's going to come down to Loretta's, and that's who they're going to show. So I just, Seba's anytime the tracks like that, he's just definitely going to want to put in some time in the deep ruts and the slower pace tracks because he rides that high speed stuff really well. That's for sure. And so we'll see how Loretta's is going to play. That the super mini class at Loretta's, it proves every year whoever can come out and show out and be the best guy there. For example, like Zing this year getting the ride, the Team Green ride out of that. So the super mini class this year isn't full of heavily supported riders like it's been in the past. I mean, Pine is going to be up there, but like the guys we're talking about right now, we got Pine and Ellis. Am I missing anybody that's factory supported? I think those are the only two, and they
Mm,
haven't even been 1, 2 in that class. Pine's probably a favorite going in, but for me, there's going to be a lot of guys that are chomping at the bit to go take the ride.
yeah, the only two that would be maybes are the kids that I extended before I left, Nolan Ford and Easton Graves. They're both scheduled to be mini senior
Yeah.
and probably battle with Maddox Timmerman and maybe Jackson Vick. But they also have, see, I built both of their contracts uniquely, like I did Darren Pines last year, which was a 2 year deal. The second year is your super mini year. The first year is your choice. And pretty much you do both. And like Graves and Ford, they ride everything. And then they'll make the decision after regionals which one to go. I did it that way because if they're feeling good on their super mini, I'd rather have them just go up, even if it's not a win. It's year one of a 2 year deal. Again, they don't have to win. But if they're riding the bike great, just go on up and swing at the class above. Darren Pine did that last year and he won the first moto at Loretta Lynn's in the super mini when he was scheduled to ride mini senior one. So I did both their contracts the same. So they could possibly be in super mini depending on what they choose. I just don't know what they're going to choose. They'll make that choice in June. So, but
Okay.
they are also supported kids, but younger and not really of the age of super mini, but skill set wise, they're like both, I mean, totally ready to go if they want. Depends if they want to chase a title in mini senior or race up and race Pappas and Seba and some of those kids up in the super mini class. So a good ride for both of them. And of course, they both ride Schoolboy 1, the 125 stuff. They squeeze into that class. But that was won by Jace Coy and Mason Finney. I'll start with Mason Finney. He's a NorCal kid that I have watched forever. I've known that family forever, and I haven't heard anything in a while. I've been gone. Obviously, I moved to the East Coast. So I haven't heard anything, but he got a championship there, and so did Coy. And the reason I know, because I'm paying attention to that class, is Brady Olson is a kid that I work with at Supercross University. He's someone that I'm somewhat on the mental side, and part of his program right now is to get out there and ride the stuff that he's not used to. And he threw himself out there in California. Now he's doing some West Coast qualifiers because it's different and it's new before he comes back to Texas. And then eventually, I think, makes his way to the East Coast. I like him being out there and racing against these kids that shred in SoCal, and Coy, Finney. They're two that did, but Greg, they're the two that got the titles.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Finney. And this is a fast class. This is so a lot of those classes missing a lot of hitters. This class wasn't missing a ton of hitters. You got Matt, you got Olson who got one at Spring Nationals, Mess who ran up front, Christian Humphrey who's always fast, Jace Coy. I don't know if he was there, but Finney's the one I don't know. So that was impressive to me to see.
Really good for him.
Yes, yes, because like I said, Olson got some championships or a championship in Texas. So to see him out of his comfort zone, like you said there, and then to see guys, beat him at this race where there was five or six good kids in these classes.
Yeah, really good. Braxton Mess did get a championship in a two-stroke class. The other ones weren't in there, but Lipanovich was in there, and I don't think he's on a 125. So is he on a 252 stroke? And Brax beat
I'm
him, or
looking
is he
right
on a
now, though. He
125?
did. It wasn't as full of a gate. Lipanovich, I don't know what he was riding, but Mason Finney did go 3-3, and
Oh, so
Jace
he
Coy
was in
went
there.
and Jace Coy went 5-4.
Okay,
So
so he
maybe
did
it's
beat. So he beat the two kids that won the two 125 titles. Brax beat them too, and Lipanovich, who's like
well. Here's what I
in his
will say. Looking at
30s, right?
lap
Late
charts,
30s.
there was 21 kids in the what's the other class there? The BC and the schoolboy one. There was only
Yep.
four kids here, but he still started. Mess started fourth out of five in this two-stroke class. So maybe his starts were just that bad with
Hmm.
a more full gate that he couldn't burn through the pack. Because in this class, it looked like he burned through past Finney, past Coy, past everybody on his way to win those.
Wow.
So
And
maybe
again,
he was buried in those, and then obviously we know he's one of the only guys on that newer KTM fuel injected bike, which is definitely a little bit soft on power and having some issues. So maybe that's just to burn through a pack of six is definitely a lot easier to burn through a pack of 21.
yeah, and for Brax, got to remember he's AMA 13. He
Yeah.
is very very young, and this is just a year where he's having to kind of sit there for a year. Can't ride 250s yet. He's about to be eligible for that, and he'll be on a 250 the minute he's capable, and he's going to be really good on one. He's big, strong, muscular, in shape. He's an animal, and I think he's just biding his time for 250 life, which is coming. I would imagine the minute the minute it's possible, I could see him being on one, and he's going to be very, very good on that. I'm going to bring up one name, not on my list of championships, but it's personal to me, and I know you know him very well too. And he did grab a moto win against Max and got second to him in two championships. But Talon Staggs,
Okay.
I think Talon Staggs is one of the most talented kids in amateur racing. And if they just keep going and just keep their head down and go, that kid is going to shock people because he is phenomenal on Supercross. And he's just kind of that under the radar that doesn't really get the attention and break through. He got 2 seconds, Greg. You know him too. I think he's a freak talent. Like one of the most talented kids purely in all of amateur racing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, he's good. He obviously rides the bike really really good form. Rides the bike very, I would say gently. He plays with the track a lot, and obviously he rode really good. Like you said, he got a moto win there early on, and he's right there on the edge. And you can at what point though? You know what I mean? It maybe not this year, but next year you got to make sure you jump yourself up and become that guy, and win to get the support. It's I've always had this take too, and we talked about it a lot. in amateur racing, there's a lot of stuff that you can. There's a lot of cool things you can do between motors and who you choosing your own suspension and doing all that stuff. And I always said if I had the budget, I wouldn't want any support. I'd want to ride whatever the best bike was. I'd put myself in the best position at all times. But there is families out there that support wouldn't change the result because they're still going to have five bikes, whether they get them from the factories or whether they go out and buy them. And then there's going to be people that really benefit from having support. And it's you can't penalize the people that have done good because they're on good bikes and because they put together a program by not giving them support. But I always thought that was kind of a catch-22. Why, it's like, why are we supporting? I'd like to throw more support at somebody that it's going to make a huge difference in their program. They're going to go from having to deal with riding one bike throughout the year, and then that 4 or 5 bike deal, they're going to get 4 or 5, rather than people that are going out and buying 5 bikes for themselves. So that's
Yep.
a tough one, and I feel like they're in that situation where if they did get some legitimate help, it would help their program. And you've seen what it's done for Max Shane. Max Shane was in a make or break position coming off super minis, and we knew that it was going to be an issue. And if he didn't get that ride off of super minis, he might not be racing right now.
Yep. Stags are in that kind of situation too, where support would go a long ways. They're it's tight and they pull it off, and the kid is just continuing to be good. And I think it's building a fire. And if that to me, he's like a bomb that's going to go off. I mean, it's easy to see for me that he's that talented, that
Yeah,
determined, and has had it tougher.
in my opinion, yeah, he's just got to finish though. Like he's got a lot of finishing here in SoCal. That's normal, but he's got to get to some of these big races
Hey, he won a moto at Freestone too,
yep, yep,
in the B
yep,
class.
he
So
did.
he's getting them. He's going from being from looking great on the track to actually sticking some moto wins on the board. But he needs the overalls. You're right.
Right,
That's
right,
next
right.
for him. And but he's in a tough class. It's just he's oh man, just keep
And it's
going, just
playing the
make it
game like
through.
we talked about last week. There's no reason that, with what's going on with futures and combines, there's no reason that, and I know, Townsend's young, and Seth Dennis is young, and Max is young enough to ride the B class again. But those kids that did top three at Loretta's and won Loretta's last year in the B class, they need to be riding A class. And I put this together. I wanted Max in the B class because we're playing a game right now. Everybody's playing a game, but like there, you shouldn't be able to go get first at Loretta's or top three at Loretta's and then come back and run it again next year. I think it's broken in that fact, and I stated it last year. Or last episode. I'm gonna state it again. Um, I get that they're young, but like, what are we doing? What's this B
Yep.
class and A class at Futures and Combines? Like, why isn't it just A riders? Like, it's because of the factories.
It's change. It is changing, I believe, and I just they didn't push it over the finish line, Greg, but I hope they really do because in my opinion, it doesn't need to go from B to pro and maybe you sit in A for a second. It needs to be from C to B to A, and you need to sit in A for a while, and that needs to be a class. You could be there for 2 years, three. You could be there for 4 years for all it matters. That's what I believe, and you're right. I think B should be a true B, and then A should be a super A with futures and combines and racing arena cross pro and racing in Canada and money races all over. And you'd have local pro classes again at the local races with
Yes,
15 to 18 people. That's
that's
what you
where for
need.
me
But right
is
now,
the
the
local
amateur world
level.
rewards too much of B and doesn't reward much of A. But it is changing a little bit halfway this year, and I'm hoping that next year that changes again. But then again, what does that do for a kid like Staggs, who then what you force him into the A class, and it's like, how does he compete
Well,
without the support in A when really he would lay back in B next year and probably crush everybody next year if he stays back
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
gets the support?
There's that
It's
chance. So, and that's probably what he's thinking he's going to do next year, just like Townsend did last year. And you know what? Seth Dennis. I believe he's riding the B again this year, correct?
yep, B mod and
So yeah, but
Turbo
if
two.
you move those guys up, it'll force more guys in the A class, and if it forces more guys in the A class at a local level, and you can go race 15 pros on the weekend, then it would give Talon Stags an opportunity to go race
Make
the
some
pro
money,
class on the weekend and make
make
a
money.
thousand bucks a weekend, and then boom, that fixes that. So I think it benefits more people to move more people up to the A class, make more A class to where you can go racing and make a living. It's funny. People used to,
Yep,
Grant Harlan when he was living with me. Oh, why is Grant racing Ponca, or why is Grant racing this? Because he's trying to make some freaking money. He was
yep,
graduated, but we were racing on the weekends so he could pay his bills. And it was pretty disheartening when people wouldn't go to these local races that offered a good pro purse or a decent amount of percentage on payback, and then it's like people were too good to go to local racing, and that is what scares me is that we're gonna lose a lot of people that could benefit from that because there's a lot of racing's become so expensive. A lot of kids, I say they play professional racer, and for me a professional racer is somebody that can make a living off their support and off their racing and a life for themselves. And you used to be able to do that going local
Yep.
racing. You can't anymore because so many people are out there playing Supercross, and I mean that by they're going out there and just being a night show guy and not making any money. And then when it comes to the local race down and they throw up 5 grand and nobody shows up, the next year they go, well, why are we putting up this money if nobody's going to show up? Because the guys that are playing Supercross on daddy's money,
Mhm.
and no offense, I mean, take offense if you want, but that's what's going on right now. And if you
That's
are that
fine.
guy and
You're
you're
hey,
not a main
you're good
event guy,
for
get your ass out and go racing.
you're
You're
good
doing
for
our sport
one
a disservice.
you're good for one offensive comment or two an episode, so it's fine to get one in right now.
I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. If you haven't made a main event this year, go race local and go put your money in there and go try to win it back. If you can't skip the steps, don't go think, oh, I'm going to go race Supercross. I literally,
I
there was a
agree.
guy that I raced in the plus 25 class and he didn't make Loretta Lynn's. And you know what he did and said, oh, it's okay. I'm going to go try some nationals. You didn't qualify for Loretta Lynn. It's like, quit skipping the steps. Quit skipping the steps.
I agree. I agree. All right, that's the Cal Classic, and we'll move on now to Foxborough. And I mean, I don't know how. I guess there's no real way to break this down other than oh my gosh. But I feel like Landon Gordon, he got second, but he was awesome at moments. He also was a little too hyped up in the beginning and the end. My boy Luke Fowler, I talked to him at the airport next morning, and he was pretty bummed because he said, I had it. And he said, he's like, I was just cruising. I wasn't even trying. It was perfect. I was purring around. And then he's like, then I fell and I couldn't even ride after that. It took me a minute to get up. So he ended up third. So Gordon second, Fowler third. And then Kay Johnson. Cade Johnson, who did Spring Nationals and did Springeting Supercross and did all that, he goes and wins the Foxborough SMX Next Futures main event, Greg. Cade Johnson with the win, man. What a ride and what a night and what a celebration and what a good interview. He did a very complete, very good interview for a kid who was on the podium for the very first time.
Yeah, awesome to see. I really like that family, and let's go back to the narrative. The chip on your shoulder. He was at Yamaha and got dumped. And Yamaha still supports him, but he got dumped off the
The
what the
team
semi
side,
team
right?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got some support with Yamaha and throughout this Yamaha. But he's on the same side as like Kane Bolasina through like the amateur like the support rig. If you need a clutch for your Yamaha, they're going to go over there. They're not riding out of the semi. So again, maybe a little bit of chip on your shoulder. Hey, you were there, and now he's riding with it. And you know what? Like Big James once said, we race. And you know what he's doing out there? He's racing. He's racing anything and everything he can, and it's showing up, man. It wasn't, it's we could talk about the mud race, but he did have the best futures race of his or SMX next race of his amateur career at Birmingham before he backed it up with a win. So that was kind of cool to see for him to come in and do that. So, yeah, good on him for doing that. Gordon definitely looked like he threw it away twice, but I feel like for me, that it's just the mud racing's a crapshoot. It's hard to take anything from it, but to see Cade come up and do that was really cool. And then, like I said, at least he had Birmingham, a really good showing at Birmingham. I think that validates the win a little bit.
Yeah,
If he would have been at
it
Birmingham
wasn't
and got a
pure mud.
15,
Then it would be like, oh, it was mud. But he actually rode really well at Birmingham too. So it shows that there is a complete product there, or an almost complete. None of these kids are complete, but it shows that there's a lot of pieces to being complete with Cade. So congratulations again. Not a lot to break down. Hopefully Pittsburgh is dry because it's on our schedule to talk about, and I would love to break down the entire futures run again. Gordon wins 2, Timmerman wins 1, and now Cade Johnson wins the 4th. But now the final in Pittsburgh is the one. That's the one that is considered the championship, even though to me they're all 5 the exact same. But this is the one that gives you that actual title. And all I got to say, just for all you futures kids listening right now, Luke Fowler, that's his hometown race. And he said he's been playing it safe. He's going to uncork it at Pittsburgh. He said, I'm just being smart, getting through. And he's gotten 2 podiums in a row. He says Pittsburgh, dude. It's he's uncorking it. So you all be ready because that boy he's that's 3 podiums for him now. He got one at Foxborough last year too. In the dry. Remember, he punted Cole Davies over a berm last year on the last lap after Cole smacked him pretty good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Luke does. He's had a rough go. One of my favorite riders that I ever had on the Orange Brigade, and just had the worst injuries at the worst time and never got to get going. But right now, he's on a run. He's on a little bit of a rebuild, and he's ready to go, and Pittsburgh will be big for him.
I know you watch this a lot closer than I do. But since they've started this program, the champions of the last round, whoever won the championships, they all went on for factory rides, didn't they? Immediately,
Well,
has
let
anybody
me go
not
one
got
step
one?
further. Let me go one step further. Before this year started, every kid that's ever won a futures round got a factory ride. DeFran, Ryder DeFrancesco, and Chance Hymas got it the first year. Dax Bennick, Juju Beaumare, and Casey Cochran got it the second year. Drew Adams and Cole Davies got it the third year. There's 7. All 7 are on factory teams, and those are the only 7 who have ever won futures. So now you've got Gordon's won too, and I'm hearing there's pro interest. I'm hearing he's pretty
Yeah.
close to probably getting something. Timmerman, I don't know. I haven't really heard anything yet. And now Cade Johnson. So I don't know where Cade is. I still feel like Cade's got another year of this probably, even though he could go pro because of his size, but I think he might have another year. A lot of these kids are now looking at futures and combines too as like, I'll just sit in there and I'll keep racing it until I get something. So that is about to stack up like you wouldn't believe. Because it's no longer go in there, win, and get out. That's what was happening. But it's starting to look like a deal where like they're not going to boot you out. So why go pro if you are capable of winning because it's your best shot of getting a ride? So I think
Put you
next
on the
year,
spot.
26, is going to be stacked in
I'm,
futures.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit. Do you think Avery Long made a mistake by not staying in SMX next?
Wow, that's a good question, and I mean,
Because for
wow.
me, for me, I think he wins. I think
I
he
think
had the injury.
he wins all of them probably.
And what is it? What does his next year look like with the results that he's got right now?
I'd say AEO would keep him. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. But
as long
would
as he
we,
stays there.
is AEO? I don't know. What kind of support that is. Is that a salary ride? Is that a ride that's taking care of all your
All right, but here's the
expenses and
deal too.
flights?
You got to look at it this way. What is the landscape in the pros right now? There's not a lot open in 2026 anyway. Like there is nothing really. So even if he was winning them all, does the factory pits go, okay, well, he's also 19 or 20 years old, and yes, he's racing against a bunch of younger kids, and yes, he's good, but where does he go? So there's still a logjam in the sport right now, and everybody is confused by it. It's because Eli, Kenny, Malcolm, Jason Anderson, Justin Barsha, they're all Dylan Ferrand. All these guys are in their 30s, and they're all still good, and they're not going anywhere. And since they're not going anywhere, they've logjammed the entire 250 class up too. RJ and Jordan Smith and Kitchen, Shimoda, all of them would have moved up by now if there was 450 spots like Justin Cooper. Look how good Justin Cooper is, and he could barely even get a ride with Star. They keep giving him a ride because he's so damn good. But even he's been having a hard time getting a 450 deal, and he's freaking Justin Cooper. So to me, the whole sport is log jammed up right now, the worst it's ever been. 450 is overloaded with age. 250 Pro is overloaded with age. And then now the future stuff is overloading with age. I mean, Gordon's older, Timmerman's older. All these kids are actually older than Davies and Drew. Davies and Drew were 16 last year, and they won route. Now you got 18-year-olds in there and 19-year-olds in there, and they have nowhere to go. So the reality is the sport is so stacked. It's the most stacked it's ever been, and it's log jammed up because the 450 30-year-olds are still in there holding up the whole thing. It's like a dam that just hasn't broke loose yet.
Well,
So
would you say that?
that's my thought.
But you think if Avery's beating Gordon, you don't think something opens up?
Star, I mean, maybe Star, they're the only ones that grab anybody. I mean, the KTM group's not grabbing anybody on any of those 3 teams.
What is
Honda's
pro?
not grabbing anybody. Pro
And
Circuit's loaded beyond belief. They're full.
yeah,
I mean, they barely took Drew.
that's true.
So it's
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
uh it's full. The sport is full everywhere. And it's talented too. Like it's not like it's full with a bunch of scrubs. Like it's good everywhere. Every single inch of the sport from 250B to 450 Pro at the top is full of talent. It's just the most stacked it's ever been, in my opinion. And I've been watching this forever, studying. I just don't think it's ever been this good. And
No,
there's not
you're
enough
right.
rides for this many good kids. And that's why
So
we need an A. We need a
yeah,
true A. We need a true A class to where that actually these kids can make money, and they should all be in arena cross. They should all be going up to Canada. They should be all racing each other locally and whooping up on whatever you call it, the fake pro. What do you call them?
What's that?
Playing pro, whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, and I'm not. I'm just talking about the guys that aren't making main events. All right,
Okay.
consistently not making main events, and that's fine. You go, we need you in the show. But if you're that guy and you don't show up to your local pro race, it's got a $4,000 or $5,000 pro purse. That's the guy I got a problem with.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where it's at for me in the sport, and it's unfortunate for a lot of talented kids that are sitting here going like, "What the heck?" And it's because it's good. And we're also, I think, catching up to this COVID class too. You got to remember when COVID hit, a lot of kids leveled up. There was a big leveling up, and that class is now pushing up into those A and B classes too. That'd be your AMA 15s right now. The AMA 15 is the nastiest age group I think I've ever seen. Period. 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 There's like 15 kids that are all going to probably be good pros, all in the AMA 15. That would be your Dennis, your Dudney, your Gibson, your Harrison, Carson Wood, Vincent Way. I mean, there's just, I mean, Pruitt. I mean, like Talon Staggs, Brady Olson, like all these kids that are all breaking out right now, they're all part of that same class. It's the freakiest age class of all time.
Yeah, it's stacked. That's one we look at and just like I scratch my head going, but that's drilled
Grayson
down. Like
Townsend's in that. Townsend's in that.
there's your answer. There's your answer. You said when is it important to win? That's when there's a lot of guys to choose from.
Yeah.
Because guess what? When there's a lot of guys to choose from and you haven't solidified, then nobody gets picked.
Yeah, and then there's, I mean, the rules are all goofy in the pros too. It's just it's a confusing mess right now. But anyways, all right, that's not much to talk about, I guess, with the futures race. Again, it was a mutter, so not much to break down other than cool for Cade, cool for Landon Gordon, and cool for Luke Fowler. World Minis, last topic. We're going, you're going, I'm going. Quick
Yeah.
preview on it. I don't know the class. I don't know who's going yet, other than they keep starting to. Or they keep starting. They're starting to post who's going, and we're starting to see the names coming in. I believe Beckham is going, right? You sending
Yeah,
some boys out there,
Rouse, Smiths. We got a lot of
and then
other
all the
guys
West
coming from
Coast
here.
kids, all the West Coast kids, which are there's so many freaking good West Coast kids are going to be there too. So I can't wait just to be there and watch this track, which I've heard so much about, and watch all these kids and see where they're at in their development as
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
April.
it's also like Kane Bolasina is going to be there and Max Shane is. What about Olson? Is Olson going? You said you're
Yep,
working with
that's
him.
part that's
Okay.
part of it too. He's
And that's what we need. I mean, we just ran down the Cal Classic and it's been around for a while. But it hasn't taken, the World Mini was somewhere. If you were from Florida, James Stewart was at the World Mini, all
every
the way from
year,
Florida. Everybody
every
was there.
year.
So this needs to come back, and that's why I want to support it.
Pastrana, Travis Pastrana from Maryland was showing up that every year.
Yeah. So not only because of that, like we just talked about that, and I hate to get down on anything, but like what's up with the class structure and what's going on here? And it's just like, man, it's just I really like what Gary's done at this World Mini where they're timed motos, they're on time. Okay. You're gonna have an 11:45 moto. You're gonna know when you're taking off. Time qualifying, you're doing all the things, right? So let's get out and make this race the race that brings everybody from the East Coast back. Because I know the California guys, it was like if you were from California, like in my day, it's like if you weren't in California, you weren't getting that ride. You were in front of everybody's eyes and you had to be out there. And now it's kind of almost the same. It's like, hey, if you're in Oklahoma, I mean, we're not even East Coast, we're in Oklahoma. Like we're kind of just now getting to that spot to where if you come from California, Oklahoma is basically the first place that you got some green grass that you can ride in. Okay.
Yeah.
So really, what's going on is nobody's going west anymore. It's all the Cali kids and everybody's like the Holland Russell kid. Everybody's like, oh, Holland. We don't know if you're you got to be in Oklahoma. If you're West Oklahoma City, you might know, but like we don't know what's going on out there. So it would be cool to see. And then the Cali guys are kind of forced to go to Minios a little bit, but
Yeah.
I really, really like this race because of the time motos, because of the time qualifying, because of where they're doing and what they're doing with this race. I think it's
And
going to
the
be a good
track.
one,
And
and
the track. The
it's
track
a race
matters.
that I want to. It's a race that I want to support. And to have some guys. I know Jason Baker of Dream Tracks is going to be out there. His son is Biggie is also racing the 125 there. So I mean, I think this is the race that we need. This is the race that we need.
Yep.
to make big. And I hate to say that because there's also another race going on, and we're supporting this. There is a race at Lincoln Trail going on, and I
Which,
know
by the way, I've heard that place is pretty pretty awesome too.
it's an awesome facility, and it's got its place. It's like it brings out. I mean, their local races bring out 800 riders every time, so there's a reason it does that. Their Loretta Lynn qualifier, they had an area qualifier that had 1,200 bikes. Um, so it is awesome, but like I think what they're doing here with the longer motos, you get that many guys and you do 3 laps. I talked to Gary about that. It's like as you grow, that's one of the growing pains is like, okay, you lose your long motos and you lose this and you're just kind of cycling them through. But with the class structure and the motos and how they're running this world, man, it's something that I've wanted to support it, and they've given me a reason to go out there after the last 2 years of watching this thing grow, and I think it can finally be to what it was. And as you know, the World Mini was never that great as far as a
It could
track.
be
It was,
better. It could be
oh
better.
yeah, yeah. The only
Yep.
draw was it was in Vegas, but I was just up there. I went to that race. It's an hour from Vegas, so you guys all get your night in Vegas if you want to go down there and take the family,
Yeah,
hit up
who wants more
Stratosphere.
than one night anyway? And even then, a half a night, man. It's places. It's not the same. That's a wreck, man. But I think between a great track, a great promoter, and the Verb guys who are wide open on promotion, they are. I mean, even these little reviews that we're doing, these lost files, they're bringing World Mini back and giving it that style and that tone and that vibe. So that's why I'm going. I'm going. You're going. We'll be there, and then we'll be able to review that one together after being there on site. That'll be a lot of fun. In fact, I don't even know if you know this yet, but I'll be bringing all my equipment. We'll probably do it together,
Oh,
like from the
nice,
hotel. So,
good, good.
yeah, don't forget your mic.
So,
All right,
so do
Greg.
that.
Yeah,
Let's
anything
double
else before
down.
we
What
go?
I want to add one thing to that because this is an amateur thing, and we got to enjoy the amateur side of it. We did. My dad was really good about that because we didn't take it so serious off the beginning. But that was the first trip we took to World Mini. My dad, we went out there in a conversion van and we stopped in the petrified forest in New Mexico, and then we did the Grand Canyon, and then we got to drive over the Hoover Dam, and those are memories that I remember from 1997. Our first trip there, I would have been 10 years old. So just something really cool. If you are thinking about, there's more than just the race. So if you leave a day early, leave yourself some time, and that stuff. I'll tell you right now, those are some of the best memories I have with my parents. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking that little Johnny's going to be the next big pro, hopefully he is, but chances are he's not. And these are things I remember. So if you do and you are driving out there, take the time because not a lot of guys have, if we're on the East Coast, Grand Canyon's a really cool thing to see. And like I said, Hoover Dam, one of the coolest memories I've got driving out there as a kid. So take your time, go ahead and do that and make some memories.
Circus for the kids. Hit the rhino for the parent. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Some of the parents right now are like, "Jeez, yeah."
We did a pretty good
uh,
job of keeping it PG.
we did, we did. Well, we brought up Daytona, which Razzles. Last
Yeah,
time we had,
Razzles.
I had a few DMs like, "Hi, LOL, Razzles," and it's like, yeah, well, there's a few Vegas ones too.
Yeah, but
All right,
Razzles
Greg.
isn't. I think Razzles. People think Razzles is a strip club. I thought it was. It's just a
No,
nightclub.
it's just a grimy,
It sounds
legendary
like a strip
place.
club though.
It's not. It's
No, just
just
a
terrible.
nightclub.
Just a terrible place. All right, bro. Great show. Greg Albertson of Game Moto. I'm Daniel Blair of Supercross University and now Club MX. Again, very excited
Yeah,
about that
congratulations, by
opportunity.
the way.
Thank
That,
you.
that's awesome.
Very excited, and I was very pumped too because my first week on the job, Max Volan won his heat race, and I get no credit for that. I don't want any, but people were giving me credit, like, "Dude, nice work!" And it's like I had 0.0% to do with that, but it did feel good because Max is my guy. I've known him since he was a little kid. Talon was a mentor to me and rode with me in my first couple years racing pro at my house, and Max has always been, pretty special for me. So to see him get that with everything he's gone through, I was just happy for him and for the team, what they have built, and now I get to be a part of it, and I'm pumped and grateful. So, all right, Greg, 2 weeks, we'll be back. I hope you guys all enjoyed episode 2 of Everything Amateur with Greg and DB. That's lame. I hope Joe cuts that out. I don't like calling myself that, but that's what everyone else calls me.
DB.
All
Yeah.
right, later, y'all.
All right. See you.